Okay, I'm just going to say something that needs to be said among Latinos, among the Latino community, especially among Chicano community, Mexican Americans, Latino Americans, okay? If it wasn't for Black culture, Black people, Black communities, Black leaders, Black artists, Black music, all of it, if it wasn't for that, we would have an entirely different experience in the United States. Here's the difference between Black folks and Latino folks. The Black people in America, their ancestors fought for the rights that we all get to fucking enjoy right now. So many Latinos act like white folks just decided to give Latinos rights, just decided to let Latinos vote, just decided to put laws in place so that you could buy property. If it wasn't for Black leaders, Latinos wouldn't even be able to bring their kids to a public school. We have a lot of the privileges that we have today because of the Civil Rights Act, because of the Fair Housing Act, because of Voting Rights Act, which for those of you Latinos who voted for Trump, you're welcome. If you are Latino, you better recognize the gift that we were just handed from Black people. So it actually makes sense that more Latinos voted for this president because you didn't have to work for the rights that you were just handed. And don't worry, I will be talking about immigration too, but for right now, I just want to give Black people their flowers. I want to give Black artists their flowers. I want to give Black culture their flowers, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be who I am. Happy, beautiful, beautiful Black History Month from this Latina and most Latinos that have common sense.
Let's talk about Black and Latino relationships. Heavy, right? I'm Colombian American. I was born in South America. I was raised in a working class town in New Jersey. Growing up, all of my friends were Black. I actually didn't really have that many Latino friends when I was a kid. Most of my friends were Black. And really, I think that shaped my perspective differently than a lot of Latinos in the US. And I want to make something very clear, and I want to talk about something that I think a lot of Latinos like to ignore. First off, a lot of us have Black roots. In Colombia, in South America, about 20% of the population is Black, Afro-Colombian. My father's family has Black family. I have some Black heritage. Clearly, I would never go around saying I'm like African American, but I just want to say many of us share Black ancestry, and we grew up in households that bear the stain of colonialism. Essentially, we were forced upon us these views by the Spanish, by the Portuguese, even by the US, because the US government kind of went into a lot of our homelands and kind of pushed their own agenda. And we were pushed to understand or to think or to believe that the darker we were, the more inferior we are. You see this a lot in South Asian communities. Indian communities, I see do this a lot. And I'll be very honest with you, I don't want to kind of start a controversy here, but I do often see a little bit of racism from South Asian communities directed at people like us, Latinos, and definitely at African Americans. East Asian communities, this is a problem there too. Maybe we'll talk about this in the future. Like I said, this channel is for uncomfortable conversations, and I want you guys to have them in the comments. I want you to discuss this stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Black Americans and Latinos, right? So this is the part that infuriates me the most. Black Americans have historically pushed a lot of the civil rights and liberties that we have in this country, in the United States. The civil rights movement was led predominantly by Black people. Many of the rights and the privileges that we have, if you're a Russian American and you're going around talking about how much you love Putin or whatever, you won that right. Well, you didn't win it, but you have that right because people decades ago fought for the right for you to express yourself, for you to be free and have freedom of speech. And I think this is something that a lot of Latinos don't understand. I think this is also a divide between Latinos who haven't really been in the US that long and Latinos like myself who were either born or raised in the US since children. I have noticed a culture amongst some Colombian Americans that I interact with who have only been living in the US like 5-10 years, and all of a sudden they become political experts. on the US. They're like in their 30s or their 20s. They didn't grow up here. They weren't teenagers here. They may not have even gone to school here. And yes, I want to shout out Aaliyah, my first crush as a child. And yeah, and so sometimes you have discussions with them and you'll ask them like, oh, you think this is okay? Like what the government is doing, limiting the free speech of students, etc. And they'll be like, yeah, every country has the right to like determine who they let into their country and what they can do. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a threat to the country, you should not be let in. But freedom of speech, that's like a foundational bedrock of our liberal democracy, which is what we have always been for, at least for the past decades after World War II. And I feel like a lot of these recent immigrants don't know that. I think they come from their countries with kind of backwards views on liberties, on what you can say, what you should say. Some of them think that because in their home countries, the government can kind of come and tell you what to say, then that's okay to do that here in the US. And I want to be very clear about something. America has never been okay with telling people what to do and what to say. You can take this back a couple of decades. You can take it back to Ulysses, a novel published by James Joyce, which was like very controversial and made its way through the courts. And guess what's one of the most important novels of the 20th century, which would be Ulysses by James Joyce. You also take this back to novels like Tropic of Cancer, which was heavily censored and banned in many places in the US. And eventually it became part of kind of our cultural experience. Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. One of my favorite books, by the way, I heavily recommend it. But we have historically moved towards supporting civil rights, supporting speaking for yourself, and Black Americans have been a huge part of this. I'm willing to say that if it weren't for Black Americans, America would be a little bit more totalitarian than it was a couple of months ago. And interestingly enough, when you talk about this and you tell people, well, America hasn't always been a free country, right? In the civil rights movement, dogs were sicked on Black protesters. People were murdered under kind of state-sanctioned, dangerous views. And a lot of this happened because Black Americans were fighting for their rights, and they were treated horrendously by not just the U.S. government, but local governments, people in the communities that just were so ignorant and stupid that they didn't understand that, we're all human beings. And a lot of Latinos have benefited from this. Even Latinos that arrived here 5-10 years ago. But the problem is they don't know they've benefited from this. They don't know that the reason they can play salsa out in the street without having someone call the police on them, or successfully call the police on them to get it to shut it down, is because Black Americans made it possible so that integration, civil rights, acceptance of different races was something that we championed as a society, up until recently, of course. And I think a lot of my Latino brethren need to kind of get it together and start studying what this country was founded on. You can't arrive in a country, you can't come here as a new immigrant and bring with you oppressive totalitarian beliefs and think that now you can enforce them because there's a candidate that you like that does that. Like, you need to read up on John F. Kennedy. You need to read on FDR. You need to read on James Baldwin. You need to read about Malcolm X. You need to read about so many, W.E. Du Bois. You need to read about the people who fought for our rights and how hard it was for us to maintain those rights. And if you really want to be an American, if you want to come to this country and you want to say, I'm an American and I'm proud, whether you're Cuban Republican or Colombian Republican or whatever, well, you need to learn the history of this country, right? Because you came here, you chose to come to this country to live a new life, to fight for a better life for your family. So how dare you try to take that away from other people? And how dare you insult and treat Black Americans as if they were inferior to you? They're not. No one is. Everyone is deemed equal under the eyes of God. And you seem to have come here and you brought with you these beliefs, and all they do is just cause and sow hatred and seeds of evil in this society. It's a big beef that I have. I just want to say that if Black and Latino people come together, if we understand that we are in the same game, fighting the same struggle, looking for the same opportunities for our families and our children and our parents, we are a powerful force to be reckoned with. But until we realize how powerful we can be when we work together, we will remain, in many ways, unfortunately, divided. And that power will be divided. And guess who benefits from that? It ain't you, brother. It ain't me. It ain't you out there working in a factory or in construction thinking that Donald Trump is going to save you from whatever the hell you thought you needed saving from. It's Jeff Bezos. It's Musk. It's this creepy little dweeb Zuckerberg that wants to be a man, that thinks that because he has a little gold chain and grew out his little hair and has a little t-shirt that somehow he's a manly man. Yeah, okay, you can take as many Thai bowl classes as you want, Mark Zuckerberg. You're not a man. You're part of an oppressive system that hurts people and causes damages to Western democracies and developing nations who are influenced by these ignorant beliefs found amongst.
I think every immigrant owe it to Black Americans their due respect, right? Because I feel all of us are here because of the fight that the Black Americans had fought in the past. We are here because of them, if not because of them, irrespective of whether you're Asian, you're Latino, you're, Black from Africa, wherever you're coming to this country, if not because of the civil rights fight, you wouldn't have been here. So everyone is supposed to thank Black people. I remember when I was growing up, my dad was, telling me back home that the Americans were being killed, discriminated against because of their, color. And he was trying to tell me the history of how the transatlantic slave trade, right? And it's kind of crazy because sometimes you need to willingly educate yourself on some of these things that had actually happened to Black Americans, and they are still happening. So when a group of people will just come out and start discriminating against another group of people, calling them all kinds of names, it's not nice. It's not nice. What happens to being united? What happens to respecting every human for what they are, right, irrespective of their differences? So what this lady is saying is actually the truth, right? Black people were the ones that fought the Civil Rights Act. They were the ones that fought for the Voting Act too. The Voting Rights Act, they were the ones that fought for it. They were the ones that fought for Fair Housing Act, right? So if you understood all those things, you should give respect to them. At least if you can do anything tangible, the least you could do is show respect, that if not because of what these people had fought for, you wouldn't be here. And this is not just the Latinos, and this is not just the Asians or other groups that are always targeting Black Americans. This goes out to even Africans, Black people coming from Africa, right? Once some of our Africans come here, they used to feel like, and they were the ones that, like all arrogance and all of those stuff, right? They used to feel as if, they were the ones that, fought the, rights to be here and stuff like that. If the Black Americans hadn't fought for your civil rights, you wouldn't be here. I'm telling you, you wouldn't be here to be achieving some of the benefits, that this, land can afford, right? So I'm of the opinion that people should be given due respect, right? Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time, welcome on board. Here we are one big fam. And if you haven't subscribed by now, please hit on the subscribe button, hit on the like button, share this video, and also leave a comment in the comment section. Let's go on with the videos.
It's true. It's because we're not Black. Let me explain why. It'll make sense to you, I promise. I said Mexicans and Latinos do not get the same respect here in America because we're not Black. And people got offended. Now, I said that to get your attention. But the truth stands. This isn't a diss against Black people. It's a truth that needs to be said out loud. It's going to be a Mexican that's going to do this. Here in America, there's a very real public understanding that racism against Black people is wrong. And it should be, because it's wrong. But it's also socially enforced. If someone says or does something racist against Black people, there's backlash. People speak out, careers end. There's consequence, as it should be. But when there's racism directed towards Latinos, especially Mexicans, it's normalized. Jokes about immigration, accents, border walls, being illegal, these are still punchlines. I know you know somebody that makes fun of these things, like in a lighthearted, joking way. Well, it's not a fucking joke. I don't take it as a fucking joke. And the sad thing is these punchlines go viral, and we're still laughing at the expense of Latinos and Mexican people. No one's outraged. It's all laughs. The same people that scream racism is unacceptable will scroll past a video of a kid getting mocked because he doesn't know English, or stay silent when a Latina is stereotyped as a maid, or a Mexican guy as a construction worker, tomato picker, or called ghetto for speaking Spanish at work. This isn't about black people. This is about the selective outrage of people who only care for racism when it's safe to care, when it's trendy, when it earns likes, when it protects their image. That ain't activism, that's performance. Mexicans are still told to go back. You understand that? We care about racism only when it's virtue signaling. Mexicans are still portrayed as criminals, still mocked for our culture, our food, our names, our accents. I see white people and black people all the time making jokes like, "Órale, Holmes, hey, I'm gonna go do this, eh?" Mocking the Mexican accents. Tacos, burritos, flautas, chimichanga. And we're expected to just take it, to laugh along. Good one, eh? Or just shut the fuck up because it's not that serious. It ain't that serious, dog. But it is that serious. And until we start calling out every type of racism, not just the ones that come with applause, we're not really making progress. We're just playing pretend.
Latinos are inherently racist. I can't believe I'm having this conversation again, but I just seen a video of a Cuban girl who is, might I add, white passing as all hell. And yes, I said Cuban, so it's pretty self-explanatory as to why she thinks the way she does, because Cubans are one of the worst. And this is coming from a Latina, so I'm gonna yap and talk my shit, okay? The fact that she thought it was cool to literally broadcast that she says the N-word and she doesn't see the issue with it and that you guys are just crybabies is absolutely insane. Girl, you literally will never understand, because the color of your skin lets you into places and spaces that make you feel comfortable. You literally have found proximity to white people, and in that proximity, you became weird. But need I remind people yet again, proximity does not equal whiteness. At the end of every single day, you are still a Latina, even if it doesn't really show. And at the end of every day, they think they should deport you. But you feel like because you came here legally, like, let's not use that word too loosely, that you're one of the privileged ones. When on any given day, a Caucasian person wouldn't be able to tell the difference between you and a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, a Ecuadorian, whatever have you. We are one and the same. But you found this new proximity that makes you feel like you are not. And it's honestly just gross. It's really, really gross. And doing it for clicks and views and just being an overall moron in your stance is just weird. But once again, Cuban from Florida. Do I need to say more?
In essence, I think this guy is trying to, he doesn't feel comfortable where people are being stereotypical towards another group of people, right? By mentioning that their names is kind of off because it's not an English name and that their accent are kind of different. It happens to a lot of people, not just black people or white people calling, other people that their names are different, their accent is kind of strange. Even in black communities back home in Africa, right? If your accent is kind of different, sometimes people make fun of you. Sometimes people would try to identify you, whether you belong to a particular tribe or group of people, something like that. But if someone says they do not like the fact that you stereotype them based on their accent, based on their names, based on whether they are here legally or illegally, so it's, to me, any form of microaggression, any form of stereotype should be completely blotted out. If someone says they don't like something like that, stop attaching it to people. But I didn't like the fact that he was bringing in black people, right? Like, you could actually make known, your grievances or what you feel about things without necessarily bringing black people. Because I feel for the most part, black people like to mind their business, right? And that aside, black people like to joke with each other. It's not just you. We like to joke with each other. So, but I respect the fact that, the illegal thing, calling you your tomato picker, cherry pickers, stuff like that. I don't like that. It's not right. No one should be called that, right? Everyone should be given their due respect because they are human first, right? Before any other thing, right? And then for that lady, calling out on the Latinos that are closet racist, so to speak, right? But I don't see why brown people, Latinos, Spanish people find it so appealing to use the N-word. Like, what power does it give you to use the N-word? We all know that the N-word is a condescending word, is a degrading word. And I know black people use the word. Yeah, black people use the word because they are trying to regain the power from the word. That's why they're using it. But I feel, what makes you feel comfortable to use the N-word? What powers? What sort of pleasure does it give you that you literally go out of your way to use the N-word, right? Me, I feel people should learn to coexist. People should learn to know the differences within the diverse groups, right? And then appreciate it, right? But not in a degrading way, not in a way to spite the other group, not in a way to make the other group feel less of a human, right? If that makes sense, you know. So in all sense, I feel every group should be respected. If the other group doesn't want to be called this way, it's not that hard, people. I'm telling you, it's easier to respect people than to disrespect them. So guys, what do you think? Please drop your comments in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed by now, please hit on the subscribe button, hit on the like button, share this video with your friends, and also hit on the notification bell in order not to miss any of my videos, right? See you in the next video. Have a blessed day.